once-in-a-generation talent, broke the rules and tradition of the game, influential, one of the best of all time, consistent, often replicated but never duplicated, and underrated longevity. Future is one of the foundational rappers of the last 15 years of rap. His legacy is one that is a bit unspoken for, but is a really strong one. Future is 41 going on 42 years old and has been a poppin' rapper since 2012, a level of longevity that is super rare in rap. And when I thought about it, I realized that Future and his legacy is very similar to Kevin Durant. What's good, YouTube? It's Justice I used to be paying. Today I'm back with another video, and in this video I'm going to be telling you why Future is the KD of rap. But before I get into that, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Do all those things. It helps me out a ton. Now, I've actually felt this way for quite a while now. This comparison of Kevin Durant and Future, it just would not leave my mind really for a very long time now. Like, I'm talking years, long before I even started creating content. But the reason that I finally decided to make this video now is I was sitting back and I was thinking about the longevity of Kevin Durant and how really impressive it is that Kevin Durant is in year 18 and he's still a very much elite player. Like, he's around the top 10, in the top 10, maybe like that 7 to 12 range of best players in the NBA. In year 18 at age 37. And I think that what made it stand out to me in my mind so much to where I had to make a video is because I feel like KD's longevity is being kind of overlooked. It's being overshadowed. And this is because of LeBron. And LeBron and his longevity and how crazy it is for him, because LeBron is going into year 23, I believe. 22 or 23, I'm pretty sure year 23 for LeBron James. As, again, a player in that 7 to 12 range of best players in the world. And LeBron is obviously in the GOAT debate. So his longevity kind of overshadows KD's, because when we look at KD in year 18 at age 37, it's not as crazy to us as it really should be, because we've been getting used to seeing LeBron play into his early 40s now. But what KD's doing is not anything that's like common. This is a very rare thing. Most players are done by the time they hit the age of 35, let alone 37. KD's in year 18 at 37 years old, and he's averaging 25 points per game. Most guys, when they get to that age, if they are still in the NBA, because there are guys who are 37 in the NBA, they're nowhere near where they used to be. Now, mind you, KD is not in his prime anymore. He's not the peak player that he was, back in 2014 to 2018. But this version of Kevin Durant is definitely still an elite version. This is a player who's lasted longer than guys like Kobe in terms of high-level production, guys like Mike, guys like Kareem. Now, he's not better than those guys all time, but when we're looking at longevity and what they were doing at 37 versus what KD's doing now, it's a whole different ball game. And when talking about Future, it's a very similar conversation. Future has been popping as a rapper for over 13 years now. He's been a huge name, a household name, and he is 41, turning 42 actually like in a few weeks or something like that. And for rap, that's just insane, okay? Rappers do not have a very long shelf life. Like, athletes have a short shelf life, but rappers might have an even shorter shelf life. Okay, so to be going for 13 years as a guy who's really still lit, really still relevant in the space is very impressive. It's also especially impressive because Future's in the club scene. So there are rappers who will get to their 40s and still be pop and still be lit and all that stuff, still have people talking about them. But for Future specifically, he is a rapper that primarily dominates the club scene, the party scene, the turn-up scene. So the fact that his music is still going at the age of 41, going on 42 in that scene is kind of crazy. Because when you look at who's listening to that style, that type of music, it's typically younger people, right? Like 18 to 35, the people who are going to the club every week and the people who are still going to parties. You're not really getting that older audience. Like with Jay-Z, yes, he lasted into his 40s and he can still drop a verse today and it'll go crazy, but it'll be his older fans. Future still has his older fans, but he's also getting these young fans, these people who maybe didn't know about him at the start of his career or weren't around for the start of his career, and they're now becoming Future fans, even though Future is at an advanced age in comparison to those people. So it's really, truly impressive. But again, when we talk about Future's longevity, just like Kevin Durant's, it's a bit overshadowed because we have Drake. Drake's been around. He's been lit since 2009. Drake has been the #1 rapper in the world in terms of popularity since around 2012. So when we look at Future's longevity, yeah, it's crazy. It's wild for a rapper to be popping and lit for 13 years. There's a ton of rappers who haven't reached those peaks, who are not those peaks, but haven't been able to accomplish something like that and haven't been able to stick around for as long. But in comparison to when we're looking at Drake, it's just not as impressive. It's not as big. So his longevity gets overlooked, just like Kevin Durant's. Future really broke the mold for rappers in the early 2010s with his melodic, auto-tune, repetitive flows. It was a dam that was about to burst, though. It wasn't just like, oh, Future's the first person to ever make this sound. Like, this was a sound that was trending and bubbling up in the South, but it wasn't really taken serious on a mainstream scale. It was just kind of like, oh, that's that weird party stuff that they do in the South. Like, it's cool or whatever. It's fun, I guess, but it's not real rap. It's kind of low IQ. It's just, you know, mindless South nonsense. And then when Future came onto the scene, he broke through and he made it a sound that was mainstream. And matter of fact, it actually changed the entire mainstream sound, but it was still a sound that Future would get criticized for, of course. It wasn't like he came onto the scene and automatically everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I love the repetitive hooks and the auto-tune and the heavy 808s. Like, this is great. He got those complaints about his music being mindless and this is stupid and it's not real rap, but Future was changing the game. And a major example of this is the song Tony Montana. That song, being a huge song in rap, was mind-melting compared to the previous big songs in the history of the genre. Tony Montana sounded like nothing else. That was a huge hit at that point. The Tony Montana, like, you can barely even understand that guy on the hook of the song, but it was a hit everywhere. It wasn't just a hit in Atlanta like some of the other stuff was. It was a hit everywhere, and it really did break through and kind of ended up changing rap forever. I mean, people kind of laughed at the song and they were like, oh, this is just some stupid trend. This is some strip club music that's going to go away forever. But it really did help usher in this new age that ended up changing the rap scene for the entirety of the decade into this next decade of the 2020s. The most popular sound in rap changed based on guys like Future, the Migos, Young Thug. The 808 ATL trap sound dominated rap in the 2010s, even up until now, to the point in which the people who came up after Future, like Lil Baby, Gunna, Playboi Carti, Uzi, Yeet, Lil Durk, and others, they were all influenced by him. But it wasn't just the people that came up after Future that were influenced by him. It was also the people that came up before him and were bigger than him. Most obviously, Drake. Once Drake got with Future in the mid-2010s, he adopted a ton of Future characteristics. Most obviously, being his production choices. Future is so influential in music, he even changed a lot of the landscape of male R&B, with a lot of them adopting Future characteristics with the beats, the melodies, and even the topics of toxic love and drug usage. Like, low-key, Future messed up the male R&B scene. Everyone who came up after him was trying to be Future whenever they sung, and they weren't trying to be lover boys, which really messed up the scene, in my opinion, but that's not the topic of this video. Future was so influential that he even influenced just music as a whole, okay? Because everyone wanted to do something involving trap music in the 2010s. You got Ariana Grande, who started using trap beats, and Taylor Swift, who even had Future on a song. Like, Future is one of the most influential artists, of course rappers ever, but artists really in general, but especially of the 2010s. Ever since the rise of KD in the 2010s, we've been looking for the next Kevin Durant. KD was always seen as a possible generational player, but there were doubts about how his physique and playstyle would translate to the NBA. A 6'11" skinny guy who shoots jump shots like he's 6'4" and doesn't really bang in the post like you want a big guy to do. He was basically an even taller T-Mac, who was already a freak, yet his lack of muscle and strength was seen as a possible deterrent. Yet when it was clear KD was an elite player, we got new waves of players modeled after KD. Everyone wanted to draft a 6'10" guy who played on the perimeter and handled the ball. There are varying levels of success in the NBA for the KD-inspired guys, the Michael Porter Jr.'s, Brandon Ingram, Jason Tatum, and Chet Holmgren, and there were even a few who failed to be, successful players in the NBA while being labeled as the next KD, like an Imani Bates, Dragon Bender, or even low-key Kevon Looney. And I know if you've only ever seen Kevon Looney play in the NBA, that sounds crazy to say that people were calling him the next KD, but go watch those high school highlights, all right? I'm not saying he was on pace to be the next KD, but he was low-key cooking. Like, he was low-key, he was giving people that work. Thon Maker as a prospect does not get half of the love, or really even any of the love that he got without the existence of Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is the ultimate bucket getter. Like, it looks like he was literally born to score the basketball. If you've ever watched him play when he's really in a flow state, when he's really going crazy, it just looks effortless. It looks easy. It looks like, man, that's so easy. Why am I not down there doing it? Because Kevin Durant is a natural born scorer. For Future, that's him dropping hits. That's him dropping club bangers. Every single year, Future is constantly putting out these songs that go up in the club scene, go up in the turn up scene. He just does it super easily. He is just a hit maker. Other people call him, hey man, Future, we need you on this hook, bruh. Because they know if Future's on it, there's a good chance it's going to be a hit. The man has over 200 Billboard Hot 100 hits. Over 200. That's an insane amount for any person, let alone a rapper who makes club music. Like, do you understand how crazy that is? And for Kevin Durant is not in a real conversation in terms of like the GOAT, like the GOAT player. Whenever we're having the debates, it's, LeBron, it's Michael Jordan, maybe even Kareem if you want to throw him in there. Some delusional Kobe fans might say Kobe, but there's no real push for Kevin Durant as like the GOAT. But when it comes to the game of one-on-one, when it comes to the game of just getting a bucket, there's not too many people that are better than him. Like, if we're just talking about who would you pick one-on-one, there's maybe a handful of guys I'm picking. Maybe. They might be better than him all time, but if I'm talking about roll the ball out, who gonna score on who more times than the other person, give me KD over pretty much anybody. A few, but pretty much anybody. That is how I feel about Future as well. In a versus setting, there's not too many guys who can beat Future, okay? Future might not be up for GOAT considerations in rap. But if we're talking about just hit for hit, hey man, I think that you can probably count on one hand the amount of people that would beat Future in a versus. Whenever we have conversations about verses and who would win this person versus this person, I always love to bring up Future because Future is a top 5 versus rapper in my opinion. He might not be a top 5 rapper of all time, but if we just going for hits, and if we're counting, if we're not even just like hits, if we're counting in features as well, if you're gonna let Future get the songs that he's the hook on, come on, bro. He's top 5. That's one of my hot takes. I made that video years ago. Future is a top 5 versus rapper. Put him up against anybody except Kanye, Drake, and maybe Jay-Z. Kanye, Drake, and Jay-Z. Anybody else, I can go hit for hit with you. And I'm probably gonna pick Future. Despite all the greatness that both of them have achieved in their career, though, they are massively discredited when we start talking about all-time discussions, especially when we're talking about top 10 lists, top 5 lists, or even GOAT discussions. For Kevin Durant, this is obviously due to him joining that 2016 Warriors team that went 73-9, beat him in the playoffs, and then lost in the finals to LeBron, and him joining that team and winning 2 championships with the Warriors and Steph Curry, and leaving and never winning again. That is a huge, huge asterisk on Kevin Durant's career. It's something that people will bring up every single time if we're talking about who's greater than who, and KD is in the discussion. And for as funny as it would be for me to say that Future also gets discredited for joining a prominent light skin around like 2015, 2016, that's just not the case here, all right? Future is discredited because he's not a generational lyricist. When we're having the topics and discussions of greatest of all time, it is kind of weird to talk about Future in these conversations. It's hard to rank him properly, especially when you're talking to somebody a bit older, because he's nowhere near a traditional rapper. For better or for worse, Future has carved out a great career for himself without being a generational lyricist. And so it's kind of awkward when you get into these all-time discussions and you start talking about guys like Jay-Z, Nas, Lil Wayne, even Drake, and then you try to bring up Future just because the level of lyricism there does not match up with most of the guys in the top 10 conversations of rap. And at the end of the day, rap is kind of based off of lyricism. And even though Future does, I think Future is a bit underrated as a lyricist by most people because it's not like he's just saying nothing, but still in comparison to the top of the tier guys of all time in rap, it's not really a discussion. So it makes it a bit awkward when you try to bring up Future. Both of them have very real flaws that hold them back from like the overall GOAT discussion of their field, but half of the people that grew up on them will tell you otherwise, okay? The people who grew up on Future and KD do not play about those two. All right, they do not play about Future and KD. It feels like ever since like 2018, half of the young people, half the rookies that come into the NBA, when they're asked who their favorite player is, they say Kevin Durant. Some of them will even say he's the GOAT. He's the greatest player ever. They'll be like, oh, well, what about the they'll be like, no. It's Kevin Durant, okay? Watch the guy play. A lot of people feel that way about Future as well. You know, we might talk about, oh, well, what about his lyricism? They'll be like, just listen to the music. It's Future, bro. It's Future. Half of the rappers that come up nowadays, their favorite rapper is Future. Their favorite rapper was Future. They were inspired by Future. These two guys are like pillars of their generation. Like, it's kind of similar to Allen Iverson and his effect, where it's like, yeah, you know, he might not, or both of them might not have the same accomplishments or the same statistical dominance that you would want from somebody who you would consider the GOAT. But at the end of the day, the way that they impacted the people that watched them is just different. And those people don't play about them. They are the ultimate eye test players. Future and Kevin Durant are eye test players, okay? For the people who are, let's just say 35 and under, growing up watching basketball, for them to come away with the idea that there haven't been 3 players better than Kevin Durant all time just based off watching him, that's not that ridiculous to say. Just eye test. Just watch Kevin Durant. Don't look at the stats. Don't look at the accomplishments. If you're just to sit down and watch him, as somebody who's under the age of 35, I can see how you come away with the realization or the belief that Kevin Durant is a top 3 player of all time. That's not unrealistic. And it's the same thing with Future. If you take away all the, oh, well, he doesn't rap like this and he doesn't do that, and you just say, just play the music, bruh, I could see how a lot of people come away with the belief that Future is one of the greatest top 5 rappers of all time. And some people, some of them young dudes in the South, they will flat out tell you Future is the greatest rapper of all time. Some of them will flat out just say it, bro. Like, nah, he's the GOAT. Like, I don't care what you got to say. Jay-Z, Nas, Biggie, Drake. I don't want to hear it. Kendrick Lamar. Future is the GOAT. They will tell you straight up because he's an eye test player. They listen to his music the most. He makes the best music to them. He's the GOAT. It's really that simple. But you can't tell the story of the 2010s in either of their field, that being basketball or rap, without Future and Kevin Durant. They are on the Mount Rushmore of the 2010s for their specific field. They ran that generation. Now, of course, you can say, oh, well, there's Drake and there's, LeBron, and they both outshadow them. Sure, whatever. They might not have been one in terms of like biggest impact or, in the NBA, I guess it's the best, but in music, it's kind of subjective. So in the NBA, yeah, LeBron was the better player in the 2010s. And in the 2010s, you could say Drake had the bigger impact, or maybe Kendrick made the best music. But regardless, if you have a Mount Rushmore, they have to be on there. They just have to. They changed the game too much. They influenced too much. They produced at such a high level in such an efficient manner. They have to be on your Mount Rushmore for the 2010s. There's no way to make up for it. And also, I just wanted to make this video because they've just always given me a similar vibe. They just always have. Like, on a less serious note, they just give me a similar vibe. I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping, but I feel like KD and Future, that just makes sense in my mind. I don't know. They just have a very similar vibe. Now, I will say KD doesn't have a whole bunch of baby mamas and a whole bunch of children. So, we can scratch that off the list. They don't have that in common. And I don't think KD's on hard drugs, even though he does like the tree. So maybe that counts because he's an athlete. That's about as hard as they can go while still being safe. But I don't know. Regardless, if you made it to this video, I greatly appreciate it. Let me know. Do you think I'm tripping, or do you see the similarities between KD and Future? But if you made it to the end of this video, I greatly appreciate you. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It helps me out a ton. I go by the name of Pay. Peace.